We will begin in 2 minutes.
Okay, Google, what is Foxygen's latest album?
Foxygen's latest album is Hang.
Foxygen, huh? Listen to Hang yet?
Yeah.
Cool.
Is he on?
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm so glad that you have taken time this morning on your Friday morning to come and join us. At least it's morning here in Huntsville, Alabama, where I'm coming to you from today with lots of rain. This is Eric from Youzign. Looking forward to a great webinar today. So feel free to introduce yourself. I'm watching the conversation going on in the chat box here, and it's pretty amazing. So just go right ahead and introduce yourself. Good morning, Carol. Good to have you on. Good morning, Jay. Good morning, Gloria. Always nice to have Gloria on. Be a little backup for me. She's wonderful about that. So thank you for joining us this morning. Anyone else want to introduce themselves, and I will announce that you're here. There's Herman. Herman's having an afternoon, and Stephen. Herman is my helper. He always checks in early because it's afternoon for him. And then Stephen is on. Amy from Columbus, Georgia, and Carol from Corpus Christi. And let's see, who else do we have here? We have David and Ken, who says it's having nice weather in London. Stefan from Paris. Good to have you. Dana is on from New Hampshire. So good to have you all chiming in here and coming to join us this morning. Greg from Alberta, Canada. Good morning, Walter. Good to have you as well. And I have to say morning because I only speak one time zone. I have a partner who will always be able to nail it. She gets just exactly the right time zone. She knows whether to say good morning, good afternoon, or whatever. Okay. Interesting question, Carol. I think we'll probably talk about that. I have that teed up on my canvas, so we will see if we can handle that. Okay. And maybe I'll need a little explanation from you as we get into the tips and tricks section as we go. But yes, you're more than welcome. I do have that planned for today. So interesting that you should ask that question. Raymond from France, and good morning, Beth. Glad to have you on today. So anyone else want to introduce themselves before we get started? Yes, probably should adjust that. I'm sorry, Bruce. Michael from Ohio, good to have you. Good to have you, Bruce, as well. Good morning, Joy. Anyone else want to introduce themselves before we go? All right, I have kind of a brief agenda today because we have a lot of stuff that we're going to cover in this brief agenda. But let's go through it quickly as we get started here, and I will share with you some things that I think are going to be helpful. And then we have a power user interview today. So okay, that's a good question as well, Ken. And we're going to talk about how to handle some overlaying today, and so that'll be good. I actually have that on the agenda for today, so that will help, Ken. Thank you. Gloria, let's remember to answer both of those questions when we get to them. Good morning, Dan from Baton Rouge and Raymond from Colombia, South America. We just got people from everywhere today, so it's good to have you on. Thank you so much for joining us. So let me go back to this because I forgot to mention this. If you have questions, and two of you have already done that, if you have questions, make sure you use the question mark so it shows up in red. That's easier for Gloria to identify that. It's easier for me to go back and find it so that we don't miss any questions as we go, because we want this to be a very interactive webinar. And it's very important that we not miss the questions that you have going on. This is a training webinar. So we want to give you as much training as possible as we go. So make sure that you switch back and forth. Use the chat bubble for most of the conversation, but when you have questions, make sure that you use the red question mark. And you'll find that down in the lower right-hand corner. There is a drop-down menu there where you're writing your chats at. And one of the reasons why I have you introduce yourself is so we see people using that, know that things are going well, and make sure that everything's working. So thank you so much for helping me to participate in that. Let's make this a great experience for everybody who comes in today. And if you have questions, use that red question mark. That way, we'll be able to identify the questions and try to get your questions answered as we go. Okay? Thank you so much for your participation in making this a great webinar. Your involvement is very key to making this a good experience. Okay? So we will have a power user today. Her name is Stephanie Beck, and I'll play a brief video. The way we do the power user is that I interview that person on Zoom, and that way we have a chance to be able to edit that video a little bit and take out when I get long-winded and those kinds of things so that it would be helpful and give you a great experience. But today we have our first power user, and her name is Stephanie Beck, and I'll be showing the video to you later in the agenda today. The next thing I want to talk about is that because this happened while I was gone. First of all, I had to be gone last week, and because I was gone, some cool things happened. Now, I had already seen the version 1.0.13, and so I was playing with that just a little bit, but it does give you some new layouts in the mockups. And one of the ways that we're updating the mockups right now is by doing the by changing the version of the program. So we do have that happening. The other thing that I want to tell, and then Facebook did this cool little thing where now we can just take the GIF designs that get, or the GIFs that get downloaded from Youzign, and plug them directly into Facebook, and they play directly from Facebook. That's a really cool feature, and I just got a chance to start playing with that, and that's really kind of fun. And that eliminates the need to use Giphy or something else. And so this is making everything's getting easier for you. Okay, things are getting easier. Now, the next thing I want to tell you is that this was posted a couple of days ago. We don't have any details out on this yet, but be watching for this. This is a pinned post at the top of the community. And sometimes what happens is that you'll see an announcement made, and you'll get the announcement because you're in the group, and you'll click on the announcement and you won't see the pinned post. So make sure that you go back and check the entire page, the entire group, and see if there's anything that you're missing. It's one of the things that I do every Friday morning. Early on Friday morning, I go through and read the last 3 weeks, and that gives me a chance to get a feel for what's going on. But this is an important post because this is an announcement about the Youzign marketplace. So be watching for updates on that. That's going to be going on inside of the community. So that's going to be a great opportunity for you. Just be watching. This was posted on, like I said, on the 20th. And so we're just now starting to roll out some information about that. So make sure that you are watching for that, because that will be a very cool thing. Now, Youzign, the new mock-ups are set in perspective, and so that you've got them in different angles and different things, and I think that they look pretty cool. So I just wanted, I'm not going to go through Youzign today unless you have questions. So if you have questions, yes, Arthur, you can. That's a great question. Now, if you have questions about Youzign, post them right now. If not, we're going to move on. I don't want to spend any time on Youzign today, but I want to take a moment in case there is a question that we can answer while we're on to be able to address that Youzign issue. So if there's anything that's going on, make sure that you do that, okay? I want to talk about Arthur's question here. So now you can put video as your page cover photo. Yes, that is now a possibility. And I think that's a pretty cool feature, Arthur. I just saw that like a couple of days ago. Haven't had a chance to do that. I have several pages that I manage. And so I'm looking forward to being able to do that. This is going to be a great place for you to be able to take a video, and what you can do with Youzign and make an overlay on that video and do some really cool stuff with that. We may play with video next week. That might be a really cool thing to do. Yeah, I know it wasn't a question. I realized that it was just a statement, but it is it's just really cool. Facebook always does their rollouts kind of slowly, Arthur. They do them in certain areas. They do them at certain times. One of the things that we did several months ago when they changed the cover design and moved the image over to the upper left-hand corner was that we monitored to see how many people had that capability, and we saw that slowly roll out over about a 3 or 4 week period of time. We actually asked the poll questions here to see if how that was going for people. So yeah, we'll be playing with that. That's going to be an interesting feature, Arthur. I'm glad you mentioned it. I apologize if I made it sound like you were asking a question, but yes, that's really important. Okay. All right. The next thing is today we're going to do a layout focus. So we're going to talk about comp cards. We're going to talk about comp cards. I'm trying to read Linda's question here. I'm sorry. We're going to talk about comp cards, and in the process of doing that, I'm going to show you a couple of features that you were just asking about. One of them is this overlay and changing the opacity of that and doing some cool things with that. And I think that'll help to answer some of the questions that you've got going on. So we'll talk about comp cards. These are typically used in the modeling industry. Show you a couple of things that you can do with that. And one of those is, this is the way our layout shows. And I really like the way the layout for the comp cards show. It gives your client an opportunity to be able to see what that's going to look like. But then we also have the ability to be able to lay those comp cards inside of our other integrations. And one of those major integrations is Smart Mockups. So I just wanted you to see how that integration feature with these same comp layouts look like this. Okay. And then the next thing that we're going to talk about is Kindle covers. And there is a huge difference between a product cover and a Kindle cover. And we'll talk about what those differences are and why they're important when we get to the design canvas. I'm trying to watch the questions here as we go. Okay. The next thing is from your dashboard. I want you to see something here, because this is a really cool opportunity for you. When you see right here how to make your Youzign images clickable in Facebook. And this is a great product by a friend called Kim DeVries, and she is with Let Clicks, and this is a great product. Looks like this, and this makes your image is clickable. It takes them directly to the website, which is very, very important. You'll get more traffic if you do that. So I highly recommend, I highly recommend this product from Kim. She does a great job with this. And so click on the link right here, and that will take you to the page where Kim introduces you to the product Let Clicks. So I think you'll find that a very fascinating product, a way for you to be able to get more traffic to your website, to your landing pages, to the places where you're looking at. And this can greatly expand, as Arthur said, if you get the whole funnel, it greatly expands your capabilities and what you can offer to your clients. So great product, great opportunity for everybody who's involved in that. Okay. So I wanted you to know that that little link right there is not just telling you how to do that, but this is a great offer and a great opportunity for you to be able to do some things that we always wanted to be able to do. You know, you can create a photo link, you can add a Facebook app, you can put your Facebook pixels on here, which is really important. That way you can retarget those same people who are clicking on your images, and you can create a link pool so you can rotate those. That's really cool. This is a great product and it has some great features. Then we're going to talk about some tips and tricks that we'll do as we open up the design canvas, and we'll answer any questions that you have as we wrap up. Okay, so that's kind of the agenda that we have. Typically we do as much as we can of that, and then your questions kind of take us in interesting directions. But we want this to be a very interactive webinar so that you can get your questions answered, you can learn some things, and we can have a great experience. Okay. All right. And I will get to that. Have to readjust my screens so that I can still see your questions. All right. Yes, Greg, there's always a recording. Gloria has posted just below there where you will find the recordings for all of the trainings are all in the support.youzign.com. So you'll always be able to have access to those. Now, keep in mind that it takes a couple of days to get that posted. We're doing this on Friday, and so it's usually Monday or Tuesday before those are available. Okay. Yeah, Jim says he's using it. It works great. So let's take a look at, let's start with talking about comp cards here, and you'll see some of the things that I have been talking about. All right. And we'll answer some of those questions that you all have, and we'll jump right into this. And then we're going to have the video in just a little bit. Okay, this is the layout for a comp card. I want you to notice how large this is. It's 1650 by 2550. So this is a very large canvas here. It's a very large canvas because it's designed to make poster size images. So earlier I had saved an image that you saw in the preview on the agenda, and that is it right here. And once again, this is the value that you have of being able to do the groups, okay? I laid this out. I simply clicked Command A from my keyboard, and I was able to save everything that was on that canvas and put it on this comp card, okay? So that's the first thing that I want you to see from this. When you go to the layout, this is the layout that's available inside of Youzign. Great layout, great way to be able to promote this to your clients and give them a chance to see what your capabilities are and how that's going to look in a kind of a live session. Okay, comp cards are typically used to introduce somebody to something. All right, so in this case, this is Peace, Love, and Photography, which is a business that's owned by my daughter and her partner, who's in this lower corner right here. And but I wanted you to see how this is laid out. What I did, because these images are all square, typically you would have an image that would be a full-size portrait image right here, but you can do lots of different things with this comp card. You all understand what a comp card is? Do you know the value that this is? Yes, Gloria says it's Control A for Windows. I forget how to use Windows sometimes. But this is a great layout system to be able to present something to somebody, because it's in a very large size, 1650 by 2550. So this will make a poster size image, making it possible to be able to hang that up in a lobby or a waiting area, or to use that in a variety of places. But let's take apart the components of this for a minute, because I want you to see some other things that might be helpful to you as well. All right, here I'm going to ungroup this now, and this is Amber's headshot at the top, but this divider right here kind of helps to cover up, and it's important to do this with this. It covers up the covers up the transition from the single headshot to the two smaller components here. Yeah, Gloria's given you the details there about the comp card, but I want you to understand that it's a great presentation features. It is a composite card. Sometimes you'll have it divided into 4 sections on the back. And those 4 sections on the back will, one of them might be contact information, or you might have contact information in a banner like this. So what you can do with this card, and what I've done right here with this overlay, is I've used it to cover up the division here, which makes that more attractive. If you just have a sharp line, and you just have a sharp line here, it doesn't look as good as if you kind of cover that up just a little bit. All right. Does that make sense? Are y'all with me? Don't want to lose anybody here. All right, so this feature right here is something that we forget about a lot. And I believe we've had 2 questions asked about that already this morning. Okay? I think so. Yes, Gloria says it's kind of like a business card. It really is. It's a professional business card. Um, uh, it's used for lots of things, but we call it a comp card. But I wanted to introduce that to you because when you see this, you may not know what we're talking about. But this is a form of a larger size business card, and this taking this little graphic right here and laying it in there. Do you see what I've done, how I've done this? What I did here was that is simply a shape. I took a shape from my vector images. I took a shape. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to take a shape. And let's make this shape significantly bigger here, like this. And I have adjusted the color. I want to make that color the same as it is down here. All right. So this is another way I can show you how to do something here. Take this little tool right here and bring, well, actually that's the color right there. I saved that color before. So that's the color. Now I reduce the opacity. See what the opacity is here at 73. So I come up here and I reduce the opacity here to 73. And now they match. So this little overlay now becomes, I'm going to do this a little bit better. So you grab that and hold down your shift key and that'll turn it to the next spot right there, which makes it a nice corner image. You can turn on the offline graphics or off screen graphics or off image graphics and do that with it. Then you can lay a text on top of that and it makes the text stand out. And I'll show you why in just a second. All right. This text right here is going to get lost. This text, and I'm going to turn it just like I've turned here. But if it's here, it gets lost. I can put an outline around the outside of it, but whatever I do to it, it's going to be difficult for you to see that in this background. Does that make sense? Ken, that's a good question. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Let's make sure here. Okay. Carol, are we helping to answer your question here? So now we take that, we move it over here. Can you see what happens to your text? It makes the text stand out. Doesn't detract from the image, but it makes the text stand out when you do that. That helps you to make the text obvious, okay? Okay, making sure that we get the question. But do you see what we've done here? We've taken a box, we've reduced the opacity of that box, and you can do that pretty significantly here until, and then that makes your text stand out better. If you take this and move it over here, it gets lost in the shuffle. But if you put opaque, if you put a lightly, if you reduce the opacity, I can't think of a word that's opacity. If you reduce the opacity, it provides a great canvas to lay your text on. Does that make sense? Let's see if we got any questions here. That's an interesting question, Carol. You can play with the features over here. You can add a shadow, and you'll see some interesting things happen when you add a shadow. I'm having you do this. Let's do this the other way, okay? Let's make it like this. And now we'll go over here. We add a shadow, and we'll make the shadow white. Still can't quite do that. But the best features that we have at this time are your shadow capabilities, and sometimes you can do some interesting things with the shadow capabilities. Unless you have a better idea, Gloria, in answer to Carol's question, but you can play with the shadow, and that's about all you can do with that. And I have done some pretty interesting things with the shadow before. Let's see here. Like that. Harder to see here. Don't exactly have the right kind of background for that. Let's lay another graphic on top of this and see if it helps. We'll have to move this to the top. Kind of like that. That's as close as we can get with the tools that we have. And we can play with the angle of the shadow to get where you want it to go. And you can rotate this around until you kind of get what you're looking for. And I've done it in an extreme fashion here to call that out. Okay? So does that kind of help answer your question, Carol? Your text effects should be there. I'm looking carefully here. Everything that you have will have the text effects. Are you talking about the text effects here? When you're talking about the text effects that you get right here, these are all available on your canvas. You're going to have all of these capabilities here. Okay. You'll have all of that in your program. There's not something extra that you have to purchase. Okay? I'm not exactly sure what you're looking for there with text effects, but so this is this, for some reason, this is something that we forget the power of this a lot. This has some great capabilities when you do this. Let me change this image here. We'll play with this just a little bit more, and then we'll be finished. But there's some interesting things you can do with these overlays. And we did a whole webinar on overlays once, but there's some interesting things that you can do with the overlays. Let's change this color. We'll change it to, let's see, let's change it to this sky blue, and then we reduce the opacity of it down here like this. And can you see what that does to that image? Changes that image drastically just by laying an overlay over the top of it and reducing the opacity. And you can see that here. We can take that and make a very, very cool color out of it. But you can literally change your, see what happens here? You can literally change the look of the photo itself with the overlay. But the cool thing is, by layering the overlay on top, actually, Gloria, is kind of interesting. What this reminds me of is how we used to tint photographs when you did them in a dark room. So that really dates me. But yes, it's kind of a cool feature. This is the ability to be able to do this adds a whole new dimension to your design. And it's something that we typically forget to do and forget that we have the ability to be able to do that. And so we have to be reminded of it often. The other thing that it does, because you're layering it, the other thing that it does is that it gives you the ability to be able to make your, it gives you something cleaner to lay your text on. Okay? So your text stands out better when you're laying it on top of the overlay, even if the opacity is very, very light on your overlay. See, this one I've got clear down to 24%. We can take this even further. And there's a point at which we get a diminishing return, but you can see the difference here. It still allows this to show up better than if we move it off of here. So this is something that we forget about. It's a good reminder to us, but it gives a nice platform to put your writing on. And this is a question that comes up a lot. You can do that. If we were to take this and move it to the front, it doesn't really change that word that much, but it can, depending upon what your text is for that word. So let's move this again to the back. We'll play with this just a little bit and you'll see what I'm talking about. Move that to the back. Let's change the color of this a bit. And so we'll make it a contrasting color here. And now if I move this to the front, see what happens? I changed the color of that just lightly. And you can also do this, which is what I did right here. You can take this same overlay and you can make it small like this. I do this on book covers all the time. We do this, put the author's name, and it stands out a little better when you do that. Okay? All right, so let's take, this is a good question. Ken's got a really, really good question. Let's take, for example, there's a couple of things that you can do with overlays. We have some limitations with it, but there's a couple of things that you can do with an overlay. Let me grab a different graphic here and I'll show you. And I want to make sure I leave enough time for our for what we're going to do for our video. I don't want to miss the video today because it's really important. I want you to see the users, even if we don't get to the Kindle covers. The reason why I wanted to put Kindle and comp cards together is because they're basically the same size. They're close to the same size. So while I'm here, Glory, do not let me forget this. While I'm here, let's switch over to Kindle cover. You see it doesn't change the dimensions that much. It's just a slight difference in the dimension. And so when you do that, now, let's take that same graphic that we had here in my group, and I can drop this on here for a Kindle cover, and it's almost exactly the right size. And so I did them together for that purpose, so you'd be able to see that those images are almost identical. The Kindle covers are very, very large, and you can see what that looks like in an image preview here. Okay? So now let's get back to the question that was asked here about overlays. Yeah, there's some interesting things you can do, Stephen, and we'll. I don't have enough time to get into all of that today, but we have done that once on the webinar. We'll do it again because this is important information. When you're looking at the text here, you can do some really interesting things with the text. So let's make this just a little bit smaller so we can squeeze it in here like that. And if I duplicate that text, all of a sudden I've changed it drastically. I can take that same text and turn it black like this, move it to the back, and I start to get a slight 3D effect on that. All right. So there's some interesting things that you can do with that. Now I have an overlay question here And I want to make sure I get this. So it would be a demo for handling overlays. I have an existing image. I want to hide the original logo on the image and replace it with my own. So this is what I'm going to do. I have an example of that. Let's go back over here to my uploads. It may take me a second or two to get this, but hang on, because I can do that. Let's see here. We had to do that for a client the other day. This is it right here. Now, this right here, we did not want. We didn't want any of this. All right. So let me put a background on here so you can see what I'm doing. Because this is a good question, Ken. This comes up frequently. So here's some text I want to get rid of in this image right here. I have two options in this case to do this. One is I can go to the erase tool. That's one way to get rid of it. Go to the erase tool, take this entire image in here, take this, and now it's gone. Not a good erase job, but you understand what I'm saying. That's one possibility. One possibility is simply to erase everything you don't want in the image. That's one possibility. Another one is if I need to save some things in the image, if I want to save, if I want to save the image, but I want to get rid of some of this stuff that's in the image, what I can do is position that where I want it to be. And now what I'm going to do is go take my graphics, and I'm going to go over here to the vector integrations. I'm going to grab a shape, and I'm just going to start working with shapes, okay? And I'm going to get rid of this. Now this is really easy because it's white on white, okay? It gets more complicated, and I'll show you a more complicated one in a minute. But I can do this. I can make the background of that exactly the color of the background. And boom, now it's gone. So that's one possibility, that overlay over the top of that. We do that frequently. Now, if for some reason we had something, this one's a lot more complicated to do this, but if what I wanted to do was change that from Apple Tunes, let me blow this up so you can see this. If I wanted to change this from Apple Tunes, what I would do is I'd click on the image. I would grab a box. I would make that box exactly the same size here. And then I would come up here, click on this, grab the little pointer here, come down, make that exactly that color. And just like that, the text inside of that goes away. Okay? That's another way to do that. But don't forget that you can match any color whatsoever. I can take this little tool right here, another one of those oft forgotten things, and I can match any color that's there. This is a very, very cool feature. I can grab any color that I want, make that match. All right. Lots of ways to accomplish the goal. The two that I use the most frequently is to take and drop an overlay over the top of it and just make it disappear. Match it into color. I may have to match up the shapes. Like if I wanted to get rid of all of the remainder of this, I can do that, but I'm gonna have to play with this a little bit. I'm gonna get this over here. I'm gonna do this, and then what I'm gonna do is, let me make sure you're on the right box here. Then I'm going to, because I don't want to get rid of her hair, so I'm going to come over here and grab this. Now I've got this. I can take this little image right here, and I can turn it so that it covers that up, or flip it around here so it covers it better. Flip it around like that. And now I make both of those white. Okay. Make that white. Make that white. And I've gotten rid of it. So both ways are really easy ways to do that with the overlay. Yes, and the newly added shapes, I'm always fascinated about how much stuff we keep adding. These newly added shapes are pretty cool features too. These three things right here give you lots of capabilities that you didn't have before. So great little tool for being able to do the very thing that Ken's asking about here. Okay. Like that. Okay. All right. Anything else that we're missing here? Because I want to play the video now. Let's look at the power user. So y'all stick with me. This is about 10 minutes long. You will be able to use the chat box while the video plays. Okay. So feel free to make comments, to ask questions, whatever, as the video plays. All right. All right. Well, Stephanie, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate you taking a few minutes and kind of sharing with us a little bit about your Youzign experience. So tell me, how long have you been using Youzign?
Wow. I'm trying to remember because it was like from the very first that he launched it. So I've seen it from its, well, at least I think that was from the first time they launched it, because I want to say maybe 3 years.
Yeah, if you were at the launch, it was about 3 years ago, just a little longer than that. So good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So how's your experience been? You find it easy to use?
Absolutely. That's one of the things that drew me to it, because I was using some other programs. I mean, there's other platforms out there.
Right.
I'm not a graphic artist, and we do have a design team that, obviously costs you $100 every time you,
right.
And rightly so. I nothing against
Sure.
that, but for me, I was wanting to do a lot of social media things and just everyday posts, and I needed a quick tool in order to do that. And then just the more it just kept expanding. Book covers and ads in newsletters and headers for the newsletters and headers for clients. And then before I knew it, I'm just like, hey, I'm teaching some other team members, okay, jump on here, here's how to do it when I'm in class, when I'm teaching about social media. And these are small business owners that are wanting to find out, they don't have all the money in the world to do
Right.
things. And I'm a big believer in wanting to promote tools that we use often. I'm very transparent in our business. So when I'm sharing it with them, I always let them know Youzign, and it's promoted at one of our things, and we let them know, like, it's a minimal fee for what you're able to do with it. So no program's perfect,
Right.
But I certainly like that they keep upping their game, and
Right.
they're listening and taking feedback and making changes. So it's been a great experience.
So let's stretch things just a bit here. Let's assume that you said $100 every time that you contact the design team that you have. So would you say that has saved you more than a couple $100 a week?
And I'm not a Photoshop person. I don't want to be a Photoshop person, because that's what I want to pay the money for.
Right.
Somebody else can do that. But yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So you're saying that the social media posts, you use that for a social media post a lot.
Yeah.
They last such a brief period of time. You want them to look nice. You obviously want
Right.
them to look nice, but this isn't something that you want to pay a graphics artist to do. It's something that you want to be able to do, get it out, and move on.
Correct.
And that can save you an awful lot of money by not having to pay somebody to do that for you. So that's a huge benefit. Would you like to share some of the designs that you've done with us?
Sure, as long as nobody laughs, because I do
Well,
want
I'll laugh, but that's okay.
Please, well, yeah. I mean, laugh with me, not at me, I guess is what I should say. You know,
Okay.
are you seeing my designs?
That looks familiar. Yes, I see your dashboard.
Okay, so we've been doing this a while, so I'm just going to kind of scroll down through here. One of the organizations that it helped with quite a bit, I'm involved with a nonprofit organization, and actually I'm involved with 3 different nonprofit organizations now.
Okay.
And you know, being a nonprofit, and it was a fairly new organization, they didn't have, you know, high amounts of cash flow to be using. So this enabled me to really help this nonprofit, and I've done, oh, and this is one of the things that I do have to say, I spoke up early on in the game, or actually my husband was the one who mentioned it first, was because when they first came out with Youzign, that you could only get 72 DPI.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we said, well, you know, you've got these templates that are supposed to be for print ads and posters and things. So in order to do that, we need a higher resolution, because this isn't an online, it's a, you know, we're using this for print. And so within, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks, they automatically made that as a, so I have been able to use, I mean, and again, we can laugh at these together, but these are some of the ads. Here's a poster here. Do you want me to open
Just
this
click
up
on
more?
view.
So I was able to take a template, and obviously I had pictures from the event, the venue, and then just added in, like I said, it's not, I don't claim to be a, I have a better...
No, but that works wonderful for a poster. That's just great for a poster. Yeah, you've got to think about what's your goal in mind here. So
this was a 8.5 by 11 little print off that we took. We were able, and because it's a black-white poster, you know, which is why it's this way. And this I used a template for and just removed a bunch of colors, and I have a better example down here. If you can see, this was the example that they had in the template section, and then this is how I changed it around to be set up for, you know, for the program. So, you know, like I said, I'm not a graphic artist, but it works.
No, this is great. This is a great example of taking the templates that are available to you and modifying them to make them do exactly what you want them to do. So this is great. This is good stuff.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So that's, you know, some print ads. We've also done, I use it a lot for the social media posts. We do a lot of Facebook advertising for different clients, and, but I've used it for newsletter headers. Let me see what else I've got here. Printed material, for our own company. Here's some branded motivational quotes for like Instagram and you know, Facebook and such. So,
and this is where that can save you tons of money, because you've got the ability to be able to turn out a high quality image in a short period of time.
Exactly. So what I did here was, because it's already linked with the free pictures, you know, through, right? So I already had this quote, and then I literally just used the header text and then the subheading text and put my logo on there. And obviously I can change this around for, you know, different sizes that can be used, you know, for any of those. Here's another one that, I mean, we've done a ton of these. I have probably 1,000 of these lately.
Yeah, I can see a pretty full dashboard. So cool.
I do. So we work with a lot of the massage chiropractic acupuncture,
Right.
alternative health. So a lot of ours is, health and well-being and mindset and different things. This
Very
one I
good.
thought, yeah. So here's another one. But it's a way that you can easily get in here, and then once you have it set up for one size, you just change those sizes on the top, and you're off and going. So I have found that I can create a whole month's worth of content for 5 of our social media platforms in about 4 hours.
Wow. Say that again. You create a month's worth of content.
A month's worth of content,
for
and
5
that's
platforms.
For 5 platforms in 4 hours.
In 4 hours.
Yeah.
There you go.
Now that does not include my planning time, obviously,
Right.
But as far as physically getting the job done and having it ready to go, yeah.
You can't beat that.
No.
Give us one thing that you would like to share with the Friday training webinar audience. Just one thing that you think would be powerful for them to know.
Well, I feel like that, this, if you're like me, if you're a perfectionist in some ways, that, and we all have heard paralysis by analysis and over analyzing it and thinking that everything had to be perfect. It doesn't, but this enables me and gave me confidence that I felt good about sharing it, and I could take action and move forward with.
So what did y'all think? Was that beneficial? Can you see the advantage? There was some pretty cool stuff on that video. Just the thought of being able to do, and I know it's possible because we do it, but I just never thought about it. 30 days, and I know Stephanie posts daily. 30 days worth of posts, 5 different platforms, and she does it in 4 hours. What an amazing capability that really is, and being able to fly through the things. And I looked at her dashboard. She's underestimating. She has thousands of designs saved on her dashboard, and she doesn't save everything. So really, really good stuff. Great power user who wants to continually deny her capabilities, but she's got some really cool stuff going on. So I just wanted you to see that. I wanted you to get a chance to hear her and listen to what other people are doing in the Youzign space. We have this great capability of being able to chat with each other, but to be able to put you on a video and take out the hiccups and the sneezes and the stuff that happens in a typical live experience, and be able to just share the highlights of what's going on. I thought that would be very beneficial to you. So yeah, Mike, she said it over and over again to the point where, it was like, okay, we get that, but that she's not a graphics artist, and she's not, but she's got some great stuff, and I'm really, really, really pleased to be able to let you all hear from her today. And again, much of her design is very, very functional. They have to make posters for they have all kinds of clients. They have to make posters for all of their clients. They have to make physical print stuff. They have to do lots of things. And to see what she was able to do, that was just amazing. Herman, I'd love to have you on since you mentioned the great interview. But any of you who are interested, please do this. This is how we have to do this. There isn't any other easy way to do that. This is how I need you to do this. Go to the Youzign group, click on my name, send me a private message, and I will connect with you, and we'll set up a time when we can do the interview. I do it through Zoom. That way we get a chance to record, see your screenshots, get a chance to see your face, listen to your voice. And Herman, you're underestimating your ability. I see your work, bro, and I know what you do. So Yes, you're definitely a good user, Herman. You fall in that category. Yeah, Gloria said she was thinking of you too. So let me look here, see what we have. All right. Okay, any questions before we go? Did we get your questions answered? We had a couple of questions. Really, a lot of that fell into the whole overlay thing today. And so the text effects, you've asked that question a couple of times. I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about text effects in your library. Let me eliminate everything that's here and see if I can help you answer this. Over here, when you look down here, we've got all kinds. This is probably where you're asking about because this comes up a lot. Over here, we have a whole bunch of text that are saved right here. All right. And I keep pulling those in, and you say, where do we get those special effects text? Well, what they are actually is, if you take this right here, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to change this, and we're going to make this my favorite passing notes, and we're going to set this bad boy at an angle, and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger here, and I'm going to change the color of it, and I'm going to make that this color right here, good Youzign color. And now I click on the save button right there. It saves that font down here at the bottom, and it will duplicate exactly the way I saved it. Okay? I think that answered your question. This people see all of these over here, and they wonder, how do we get all of those? Well, the way you get them is you create them. You design them yourself. And if I have something that I really like, and I like the angle of that, and I want to use that from a branded standpoint, I just simply save it. And I do save it by clicking right there, that little save button that's next to the font. Makes it really easy. This is a great capability. Okay, separates Youzign from a lot of other platforms. Yeah, that's what I did over here, Ken. Part of the reason why I had that saved that way was when you save a group, like I saved a group over here. This was my group right here, which I had earlier. I can save that group, and then I can use it in different designs. Now, remember, when I go to different social media platforms, I'm going to run into a bit of an issue because this, first of all, this thing is gigantic. Because remember, it was saved was saved in a rather large fashion. So I can make it smaller like this. But remember this: when you do this, I'll take one that we had here last week, and we'll talk about the tickets, and we'll take a ticket like that. And now I have a problem because that's not going to fit. No matter what I do, it's not going to fit. So I may have to redesign it. But I do have the ability to be able to do that. And I can do it with groups, and groups are pretty cool. The ability to be able to use groups is really, really a cool feature. Okay, let me see if I've got any other questions here. Because we've come up against the end of the hour. Looking to see if there was anything else. Favicons, I cannot answer that question today. We'll have to do some research, and we'll get back with you on that. Okay. All right. It looks like we have answered all the questions, and we thank you again so much for joining us today. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Hopefully the things that we've shared with you today will help enhance your design capabilities and make you a better designer and have a creative way to look at your world. I always try to provide solutions to design situations. David's asking a question before we go. Add an image Okay, let's take a look at something that I think we forget that we have this capability. Okay, let me go back here quickly to this because I think this is a good question. All right, let me find the comp card design again, and I'm going to throw this back on top of that. And if I want to zoom in on something, okay, I click down here and I zoom in right here. All right, just like that. That's how you zoom in on it. Yep, that's it. You just click on there is a zoom feature and it's right down here. Then you just click on it again and it goes away. Click on this and you can go back to your original size. Okay, that's how you zoom. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us this Friday. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Thank you for helping us to have an incredible experience on our webinar today.